interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 98 of Vikings Uncensored.
Shout out to Slash from Guns N' Roses for our theme song, by the way.
That's not Slash.
I know. They don't know that.
They do now. No, I just wish that YouTube would remember that so they quit hitting us with a copyright thing for this theme song every week. But
right, this is our song.
Yeah, we paid for the rights to it. Damn it! All right, enough ranting on that. Again, welcome to episode 98, creeping ever closer to that century mark. Super Bowl is over. The off season is in full swing right now. A lot of stuff coming up, but we'll kick it off a little bit of news here. Of course, speaking of the Super Bowl, Sunday's game actually did not disappoint. Very good game, I thought, for the most part.
Great Super Bowl, man, especially in the last couple of years, and probably the best Super Bowl since the 28-3 debacle.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I thought it was well played. It was, tough fought between both sides. Congratulations, of course, to the Kansas City Chiefs for winning Super Bowl 57.
Man, there was everything you could ask for in the Super Bowl. High scoring, drama. Man, it was pretty good. Props.
And a tribute to Christian Ponder by Jalen Hurts on that Hail Mary throw at the end of the game that ended up about 15 yards short of anybody. Reminiscent of the one Christian Ponder tried to throw. I forget who it was against, but didn't have the arm strength to get it down there far enough, and was
never had any arm strength. That was the big knock. The biggest knock on Ponders. There's no arm strength there.
Well, there was plenty of knocks on Ponder, but yeah, that was a big one. Of course, Philadelphia fans did as Philly fans did. There was supposed rumors of a bunch of Eagles fans trashing a bar somewhere down in the Phoenix area after the game.
Why? What did Phoenix ever do to them?
Nothing. They're just dicks.
Dumb. Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't like that team.
Yeah, like I said, I have nothing against the Eagles team. It's the fact that their fans are douchebags, and they're proud to be douchebags. That's the problem. But anyway, speaking of the Eagles, they are now uncoordinated as they both lost both of their coordinators following the Super Bowl. The Indianapolis Colts naming offensive coordinator Shane Steichen as their new head coach, and the Arizona Cardinals naming defensive coordinator and former Vikings position coach Jonathan Gannon as their head coach.
Right, well deserved too.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, Don.
So good luck to Jonathan Gannon with Kyler Murray down there. But
Steam was trying to load up my laptop as we speak, and I'm like, "What are you doing, Steam? I don't want to play with you right now." So
yeah,
it took away some of the bandwidth.
stop. Okay, don't play Call of Duty there, Kyler. We're trying to record a show here. In other NFL news, the Las Vegas Raiders officially released quarterback Derek Carr on Tuesday after he refused to waive his no-trade clause.
So now is he just a free agent then?
He's a free agent, can sign with whoever he wants.
Wow, that's a big fuck you to Las Vegas, man, because they were at least going to get something from the Saints, in return.
Well, and my theory, Dennis Allen is the head coach down in New Orleans right now. He was Derek Carr's coach back when the Raiders were still in Oakland. I would not be one bit surprised to see him still end up in New Orleans, but
right, without having to get rid of anything in compensation for him, which is
right, which is why I think he refused to waive the no trade clause as a final middle finger to Mark Davis and the
I can't
Raiders
blame the
organization.
dude. I cannot blame the dude.
No, I can't either.
You know what? Like we said last week or the week before, it's best for both parties just to move on.
Mm-hmm. But the fact that Vegas doesn't get any compensation from it is just kind of like I said,
mind-blowing.
One gigantic middle finger to walk out the door with. But
absolutely.
Then one bit of Vikings news that came out this week. Dalvin Cook had shoulder surgery on Tuesday, taking care of an injury on that shoulder that he'd hurt back in 2019. Conveniently just decided to have it done now when there's talk of him, his contract and all that other stuff. But with that, he has a injury guarantee on his contract of $2 million, part of that $10.4 million base salary, that will become fully guaranteed on March 17th. So
right
now that's the third day of the new league year. There's a very good chance Dalvin Cook won't be on the team by that point in time.
Might be dealt before then. So
yeah,
ideally as well. So
yeah, although now it's
opinion, God forbid, somebody disagrees with me out there.
Yeah, how dare you, Brunswick? But with that, it's going to probably make his trade value a little more difficult. So it's kind of a
maybe it just depends on if he's ready to go or not come training camp.
Which he claims he will be, but as we just talked about with Derek Carr doing a little bit of a middle finger to the Raiders, this may be Dalvin Cook doing a middle finger to the Vikings too about wanting, either wanting to redo his contract or letting him walk, one of the two. I guess we see. But anyway, speaking of Dalvin Cook, we're going to roll into our positional breakdown week 2. And this week we are talking the running backs. Of course, the big elephant in the room, I guess, in the running back stuff is Dalvin Cook with his $14.1 million cap hit this year. If he is cut or traded prior to the prior to June 1st, we will incur a $6.2 million dead cap hit, but we would save 7.9 in cap space.
A little bit better than a wash.
Yeah. Now, if he's designated a post-June 1st cut or trade, he would only have 3.1 million in dead money, and we would save 12.5.
Oh wow!
Problem is, we're most likely going to need that money earlier on for free agents and everything else.
Top shelf guys.
Right, getting that 12.5 million after June 1st really is not going to do us a whole lot of good.
No.
Then.
Well, I'm not going to say it won't do us a whole lot of good because you don't know after training camp ends with all the cuts and all that at that point. But
yeah, but we're going to,
ideally, you'd rather have it earlier on.
Right.
So, yeah.
And of course, the news has been rolling around for the last week or so is that Dalvin Cook has no interest in taking a pay cut.
Right.
So things will come to a head here with Dalvin. I'm guessing within the next 2 to 3 weeks, probably. Because we're just under a month out from the start of the league year. So,
yep.
But then also, of course, we have Alexander Mattison, who is an unrestricted free agent. There was thoughts before that he might hit a pretty good deal someplace, but looking at some of the free agent running backs, which we'll talk about here in a minute, the market's kind of saturated, so that may remain to be seen. But realistically, with the whole uncertainty with Dalvin Cook, Mattison being a free agent, the two main guys that we may have left as it sits is second-year back Ty Chandler and Kene Obi-Wanwu Kenobi as our two main backs. Now, I think with Kevin O'Connell's offense, it's a lot, based off the Rams offense, running back is not as high a priority as it was under Mike Zimmer. So
in the NFL in general as well, it's just not
right. Exactly.
In the past.
Exactly. So I can very easily see moving on from Cook, and then we either pick up a free agent or draft some guy later on.
We got what's his nuts on the practice squad as well.
Kolbach.
Yep. That's got some knowledge of the system. So it's a young stable right now, as it would sit without Mattison and Cook.
Yeah.
So,
but as we mentioned a little bit ago, the free agent market that's a bit on the saturated side. There's some pretty big names that are going to potentially be available, including Saquon Barkley, Kareem Hunt, Josh Jacobs, Jamal Williams, Rashad Penny, Raheem Mostert, Donta Foreman, Boston Scott, and Samaje Perine.
I would tell you my most intriguing out of all those prospects would be Penny, probably. He's got the least wear and tear, I believe.
Yeah.
He's been injured, but he hasn't been able to really put together a full year yet. But he's looked decent as he's gone along in his career.
Now, realistically for me, looking at, knowing the type of back that Chandler is, type of back that Wangwu is, we really don't have a power back
Williams would
sitting there right now. Jamal Williams is very intriguing to me. If you guy could get him on a relatively
great
decent
and team player as well as from what I can tell.
Yeah.
So,
now, realistically, I see Detroit trying to re-sign him, but if you could get him at a decent, $4 or $5 million a year contract, somewhere around in there, I would absolutely put him in a running back by committee with Chandler and Wangwu, and you'd have a hell of a stable.
We haven't had a power back like that since probably Asiata back in a little bit.
Well, Asiata was a fullback, but Latavius Murray kind of filled that role.
There you go. Yeah.
And then back before that, you had Leroy Horde and guys like that. But so that bears the question: what do the Vikings do with this position for 2023? Do we draft a guy later on? Do we wait and see what Mattison comes with and bring him back on a reasonable deal? One of those free agents we just talked about. What do you think?
I think fresher legs are always better. So if you could catch a flyer on somebody in the mid rounds, the late rounds, and then go with, like I said, go back. You still got the practice squad, and he's, marinating down there, I would imagine. So, fresh legs are always good. It just comes to especially with the running back, it all comes to what's up here. And vision. Most of the players on the team, it comes with what's in their head, but
right.
Fresh legs are always a good thing. So, especially at that position.
Yeah.
So I would be okay with taking a flyer on a running back in the mid rounds.
Yeah, and just a few names that have kind of popped up that are kind of in that range, that 5th, 6th round area where we might think about it. Couple of local kids, of course, Mo Ibrahim from the U of M is kind of projected in that area. He would be a good fit for that, I think. My personal favorite, and of course I'm biased, but Hunter Lupke from NDSU.
Yeah.
For those of you who watched him against Arizona, that was basically his coming out party. The guy had over 200 yards rushing and
can lay a lick too.
He can play a lick. He can play running back. He can play fullback. He can play tight end. He's a hell of a blocker. He's a hell of a pass catcher. So he's someone to keep an eye on. One guy that absolutely tore it up at the combine and is kind of being a darling to a lot of guys now is Tajay Spears out of Tulane. Depends on how he shows out at the combine. He could vault himself up into that, third roundish range. Which he was the kind of the belle of the ball at the Senior Bowl. Yeah.
Okay.
Then there's a couple other ones like Tank Bigsby out of Auburn, who just for the sake of his name is Tank, makes him.
I was gonna say that, but you got me on it right. Just that name is cool enough.
Mm-hmm.
For the position.
Yeah. So plenty of options. Like I've said multiple times over the last couple of years, I am not a fan of signing a running back to a big second contract, especially now when we're looking at how O'Connell seems to want to run the offense. You could tell even this past year that Cook's priority level in the offense had slipped down quite a bit. There were a lot of games he was getting 12 to 15 carries, whereas when Zimmer was here, he was getting 28 to 30 carries on a regular basis.
He was relying a lot on the big play this year because take away those big plays and he was not getting a lot of yards on a lot of his carries.
No, but even with his diminished load, the guy was still like the 5th or 6th leading rusher in the league, had over 1,000 yards. But there were a lot of times this year where Cook looked like he had lost a step.
Yeah. Yep.
And that
happens.
Yeah, especially with a position like the running back where your body gets beat on as much as it does.
And Zimmer for a few years there really put the load on Cook there for.
Well, yeah, he was 350 plus carries every year.
Yeah. It
seemed like, but something that's going to bear watching. We're going to have to do something. And I truly believe Dalvin Cook is not going to be on this team next year.
I agree.
So, like I said, whether that is bring Alex Mattison back on a cheap deal if we can get him, or free agent like a Jamal Williams or somebody like that, or drafting a guy, remains to be seen, I guess. But that is the running back position in a nutshell, I guess. Next week, we will look at the wide receiver group. Some good discussion there, of course. So stay tuned for that next week. But with that, we are going to roll into another one of our classic beer commercials. So head on over to the fridge, grab yourself a cold one, crack it open, check this out, and we will be back in a minute.
Hi, guys. I'm the Golden Genie. Make a wish.
Yeah, sure. Then put golden in a brown bottle. Looks smooth.
Got another wish?
Jerry, the big leagues. I want to be a great pitcher.
Jerry.
Try Cold Age Golden, now in the brown bottle and smooth as ever.
He meant baseball pitcher.
Oh, no problem.
Oh.
No?
All right, we are back. And now that the NFL season is officially over with, and there are mock drafts as far as the eye can see all over the Twitterverse, the internet, social media, everything else. So as we did last year, we are going to take a look at which players that the NFL pundits are mocking to the Minnesota Vikings each week in this week's edition of the Mock Draft Roundup.
Keep rolling, 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 though the streams are swollen. Keep them doggies rolling, right.
All right, and now, yeah! Now, being we have a few new fun little features on our transfer over to StreamYard, we can throw graphics up while we're talking. So we're going to take a look at who has been mocked to the Vikings this week. We have a little graphic right here that does this. So we'll start off.
PowerPoints now.
What's that?
You can do PowerPoint now.
Yeah. We can do fun meeting type stuff just like you do at work 17 hours a day.
You can do pie charts this season.
Yes. We can just throw all kinds of good shit at you guys. But anyway, we'll start off here. Seems to be a lot of cornerbacks being mocked to us. You know, it seems like it's a yearly tradition that the Vikings are going to get cornerbacks mocked to them in the first round.
If they don't turn out.
Yeah. Starting off with
Roads.
Starting off.
Pick. Excuse me. I keep cutting your ass off here. I know.
Okay. Go ahead.
Frazier drafted Rhodes, by the way. Not Zimmer.
Actually, Spielman did, but.
Well, yeah, the triangle of power at the time.
Isosceles of ineptitude.
Anyway.
Now that Lance sufficiently ran us into the ditch, let's pull us back over here a little bit. And we will start off with a guy that I haven't really seen mocked up in the first round very much. But Tom Fernelli of CBS Sports mocks Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback, to us.
From Mississippi State?
Yeah.
I bet our good buddy Josh knows a lot about the deer, as we know him.
Yes.
We know a lot about Emmanuel Forbes.
No, like I said, I haven't seen a whole lot of first round grades on this guy yet. I haven't.
Josh, when you watch this, if you could down in the comments, let us know what you think of this guy.
Yeah. Then going on to the second one, another cornerback, Keely Ringo, cornerback out of Georgia. Now, he was mocked to us by Cynthia Freeland and Lance Zerline of NFL Network, and also Jason McIntyre of Fox Sports.
Obviously spent some time with Scene.
Now, Ringo, again, is another one that I think picking at 23 is early for him. Most of the time I've seen him mocked second round, late second round kind of area.
Okay.
Then, surprise, surprise, once again, Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon. He was mocked to us by Vinny Eiler from Sporting News and James Fragoza from the Draft Network. Now, Gonzalez is, most places I'm seeing, the first cornerback going off the board, so having him there at 23 is kind of surprising. Okay. Now, if he happened to fall to 23, that would make it a very intriguing prospect, I think.
Ideally, in my mind, we would trade back in that spot.
I think so too, but
depending on what goes on in the offseason here, as far as ideally, like I said weeks ago, I would like to get at least 2 or 3 more mid-round picks in this draft.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, moving on to the next one.
This name coming up here really intrigues me. This is somebody I've done some work on.
Cam Smith, cornerback out of South Carolina. Now, he was mocked to us by 3 different people. Walter Czerpinski from Walter Football, Luke Easterling from DraftWire, and the 33rd team staff draft. Cam Smith is a guy I've seen a lot right in that range. He's been one of the consensus top 2 to 3 cornerbacks. And from what I've been reading is pretty good in man coverage, which, of course, with Flores being here is something we're going to need. So
it will be ideal, right? If you want to be blitz heavy, you got to have corners that can play man to man.
Mm-hmm.
That can stay on the island and cover their guy.
Yep. Now, this next one is one that really intrigues me. And I think this position may be more likely than a lot of people are thinking. But Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC, mocked to us by Josh Edwards of CBS Sports, Todd McShay of ESPN, Todd. And also Michael Renner of Pro Football Focus. Now, Addison's a little bit.
We need a true number 2, man.
Yep. Now, Addison's a little bit slight of frame. Needs to put on a little bit of weight probably for the NFL level, but he would be a very good number 2 wide receiver across from Jefferson, and I would be more than happy with this pick. Then the next guy, we got us a big ugly in the middle, Siaki Ika, nose tackle,
big ugly, and this
nose tackle out of Baylor. This guy is like 350 pounds.
Yeah,
he's one of those space eaters that's going to clog up the entire middle. That if you're running a 3-4 defense, you need somebody like that up in the middle.
Take command and take control. And you know what? We need a bruiser in the middle there that ain't gonna let anybody fucker him around.
Yep.
So
he's somebody that I have done a little bit of research on, and I like what I see. There's another guy later on, or on maybe late second, third round, Mozzie Smith out of Michigan, that our buddy Drew knows quite a bit about. But he's quickly becoming.
But he's got a huge potential.
He's quickly becoming kind of one of my draft crushes this year. I watched a fair amount of film on that guy, and another big guy. He's like 340, something like that. They have him listed at 325, but he's bigger than that. But the guy is a monster, and I'm kind of looking at him maybe like in the third round.
Just nasty. We need somebody. We need somebody that's nasty. I like Harrison Phillips, but we need somebody that's the opposite mindset of him. You know.
And Harrison Phillips should not be a true nose tackle. In a 3-4, he should be playing defensive end.
Absolutely.
And then you get a big space eating like a Ika or a Mozzie Smith up in the middle up there. So there's options there. The next one here, this Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State, the wide receiver.
Yep, I've seen him get tossed out there a couple of times for us.
Yep, Chris Trapasso of CBS Sports. And now I'm not real high on this guy. I know he played really well at Ohio State, especially with some of the other guys that Chris Olave and those guys that were there at the time. But I don't know that he fits what we want exactly. He's probably going to be more of a slot type guy. He doesn't have that deep ball speed.
We want somebody that's going to truly be able to stretch the field and take a top off the defense.
So personally, I would pass on him, but I guess we will see. Then, surprise, surprise, another cornerback, Clark Phillips III, cornerback out of Utah. Now, I watched quite a few of this games from Utah because my daughter was going to college out there, so I was kind of following the team. I like Phillips. I think he would be a good fit. Now, first round might be a bit early for him. Most places I've seen him go is, mid-second roundish, kind of that area, but definitely a name to keep an eye on. He was mocked to us by Deontay Lee of The Athletic. Then this next one here.
I like this one coming up. It's kind of under the radar type of guy going on that we got coming up here.
Yeah, Kyle Blue Kelly, cornerback out of Stanford. Here again, this is a little bit earlier than most places I've seen it, but he was mocked there by our buddy Tyler Fornes of course, Vikings Wire USA Today. Now, we've had Tyler on the show before. The guy knows his draft stuff, so he,
Absolutely.
I sit up and take notice, I guess, when Tyler talks about people like this. Now,
of course,
I think maybe it's a little early for him, but there again, Tyler knows more about the draft than I'll ever hope to know. So interesting prospect to say the least, even if we could get him second round, something like that. If we end up trading back a little bit, something like that.
Right.
Great
value pick for anybody that gets him.
Yep. Now here's a guy that's kind of climbing up the boards and is very intriguing, as we're going to need another linebacker with some speed. Henry To'o, linebacker out of Alabama. I know our buddy Ted Glover is a big fan of this guy. I haven't watched a ton of tape on him yet, so I can't really say a whole lot, but coming out of Bama, he's not going to be a scrub. We know that.
I was going to say, yeah, you're almost getting guaranteed a pro coming out of Alabama and that linebacker squad that they got going on there.
Yep. Charlie Campbell of Walter Football mocked him to us. That's definitely a guy that's on my radar at our first pick area.
Quietly, one of our deepest positions of need is an interior linebacker that can cover sideline to sideline. And that was huge this season as far as linebackers and coverage go anyways, especially in the inside.
Right. And I mean, we kind of figure that we're probably going to need 2 new starters. Of course, Asamoah most likely will take one of those starting spots.
You need interior linebackers that can cover so you don't have Danielle Hunter going back into coverage to help out.
Exactly. And we need guys with speed. So,
yes.
Then the next one is Keon White, who's defensive. I've seen him called a defensive tackle, and I've also seen him called an edge out of Georgia Tech. Chad Reuter from NFL Network mocks him to us. Have not done a ton of research on this kid yet, but we need to build the trenches. So, I mean, it's definitely
the games are won on both sides of the football and the line. That's what it all comes down to the lines, man.
Mm-hmm.
Who can fucking move who?
Yep. Then the next pick, Drew Sanders, linebacker out of Arkansas. Now, this guy's been kind of moving up the boards a little bit. Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports is mocking him to us. This is the earliest I've seen him in any of the mocks I've looked at, so it might be a bit early, but hit along with To'o from Bama, a couple guys to watch as far as linebackers if we go early. If you're looking at getting somebody that's going to walk in and start day one at linebacker, you're probably going to have to take one in the first 3 rounds, because I think there's a drop off after that. Then the final one, and this is a guy that tore it up at the Senior Bowl. I mean, there was people down there saying that he was basically putting defensive linemen in body bags. He's
been getting talked up since mid-season, as top center in the draft.
Yep. And we're definitely going to need to be looking at a center, because I don't know that Garrett Bradbury is going to be back. And with his, the back issues and the fact that he had 1 good year out of 4, I don't necessarily know that I want him back.
If we can get a center that can lock it down for us for the next 8 years to 10 years, then we are set, man. We got our bookends and our center, and then we just get 2 competent guards, and we are set.
And realistically, Ezra Cleveland is a competent guard now.
You're absolutely correct. And you know what? Ingram was on the up and up coming on later in the year. So
yeah, I think you give Ingram in his second year, I think you're going to see significant improvement there.
Take a huge step forward, I believe.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, if you can get a big and John Michael Schmitz has got a nasty streak to him, I think. And you need somebody like that in that middle. We've been, for so many years, we've been on especially like the defensive side, we're building from the back and kind of ignoring the trenches. Games are won in the trenches.
Exactly.
That's been, sure. No matter how the league changes, it always boils down to starting in the trenches. Exactly. You need to have a defensive line that can get after the quarterback and stuff the run. You need an offensive line that can stop those guys from getting to your quarterback and stuffing your run. You get that, and it opens up a whole new world for you.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Who push you around, and it all starts up front.
Mm-hmm.
And Schmitz seems to be the front runner at center, although Michigan has another guy right behind him that I would be just as happy with the drafting as well.
Yeah, and there's also the Joe Tippmann kid out of Wisconsin who's very promising in that aspect as well. So
tits, man.
So anyway, that's our mock draft roundup for this week. Again, we'll take another look at it next week, see how things have changed, if anything. But with that, we have reached the best segment of the show once again, as today we look at the players to wear number 98 in this week's edition of Brunswick's Best. So why don't you roll that beautiful bean footage, Lance, and tell us who you've got.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
So
you need to get better internet than the turbo dial-up you've got out in the middle of BF nowhere there.
No shit. So anyways, 3, 2, 1, roll it. All right. So there haven't really been any great Hall of Fame resume players per se that have worn the number 98 for us. But there definitely was a handful of players that had some stellar years playing here that wore that number. To this point, the player that has stood out above all the rest has got to be none other than the big goon himself, Linval Joseph. Now, Linval landed in Minnesota after spending the first 4 years of his career marinating in New York with the G-Men before spending the next 6 years in purple and gold. One of my fondest memories of Joseph, of course, was the scoop and score against Philly that went 64 yards, ending in a touchdown by the big man. It's from the picture that you've seen that Rhino popped up here with the oxygen mask. It was just a great
and the shades.
Yeah, and then the shades too, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of an iconic picture as far as Viking history. So
absolutely. In his sixth seasons in Minnesota, he appeared in 88 games, starting all 88 of those. In his time here, Linval became a dominating force, often drawing double teams and garnering his only two Pro Bowl bids while playing here in 2016 and 2017. During his time here, he became a well-respected defensive tackle in the NFL, known for blowing up the run and wreaking havoc along the interior of opposing teams' offensive lines. He was able to accumulate 15 sacks, 32 tackles for loss, and 51 quarterbacks hits in his time in the purple and gold. Linval, this week you own the list. Now, here are a few other guys worth a brief mention. Another name that comes up and is actually on the roster as we speak is DJ Wonnum. In his first 3 seasons here, he has developed into a great rotational player with upside, rushing from the outside. He has been able to accumulate 15 sacks and a few splash plays and limited snaps. If he continues to develop and give it everything when given the opportunity, Wonnum will be just fine. Now, on to a few brief mentions of some players from the recent past that were good role guys while here. Literally between the years 2000 and 2013, starting with the underappreciated Fred Robbins. Now, from 2000 to 2003, he seemed to make a play here and there when called upon and was absolutely a good depth guy. To a lesser extent, Darian Scott filled in that same role from 2004 until 2007. Then we landed LaTroy Guion in the 2008 draft and spent time here until 2013, developing into an average player. And there you have it, folks. There is your list for this week's Brunswick's Best.
All right. And with that, that's really all we've got for this week. Again, want to thank everybody for watching, joining us as you do every week. We really appreciate it more than you guys will ever know. If you're out and about again this weekend, make sure you take us with you, whether it be on the audio casts, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook. We are all over, not too hard to find us. So, but as you're watching, and if you have not done so yet, please hit that red subscribe button down below. Helps us out a ton, helps us build the brand. We've got a lot of things in the works for you guys in the off season here, heavy on the draft type stuff and free agency. We got guests coming on to talk about some of the draft prospects and things like that. So tons and tons and tons of stuff for you guys to keep you entertained during the off season as we lead up to free agency, the draft, and through the summer months to training camp. So stick with us. We're going to be here, and we'll be bringing you everything we can to keep you updated on the team. So with that, why don't you take us home, Lance?
Right on, right on, right on. So, any of you guys out there have any guys that you have your eyes on? I would love to hear it down in the comments below. Dan,
definitely.
Any of these offensive linemen that you think stand out that we could possibly get? Dan, as in Dan Henneman out there. I know you're a constant watcher of the show.
He's one of our OGs, yep.
You're right. Josh, if you want to throw some commentary down below about some of your favorite guys coming out of this draft, Drew, anyone, absolutely down in the comments below. We will hit on some of those guys in future episodes and just help us get a little bit of knowledge of some of these guys as well. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, we will see you for episode 99. Skol.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody.